manipulating the people into just ignore it. Okay. Ready to go.
Ready to go. Good evening, everyone. Lovely to see you all here. Lovely to see all these familiar faces here in the Mechanics School of Arts and also online. So welcome to SAR's September meeting. So tonight, it gives me great pleasure to welcome again Marc Laurenson. We have a schedule, as you can see, our normal meeting time of the first Wednesday of the month to accommodate Marc's schedule, which we are more than happy, to do, as Marc never fails to deliver an engaging presentation. As you know, Marc is the founder of the Sydney Astrology School and a leading voice in evolutionary astrology. He is an accredited teacher with the Federation of the Australian Astrologers and a sought-after speaker at conferences around the world. His work is known for its depth, clarity, and transformative insight. So please join me in welcoming Marc as he shares with us the exploration of transformative energy of the dwarf planet Eris. Thank you. To advertise something coming up in October.
Yeah. Thank you.
Feel free. Okay.
Yeah, I'm so in demand. They had to squeeze me in when I could. Just before I get stuck into my little program tonight, I just want to do a final ad for Bali. We're doing a wonderful, wonderful retreat in Bali the last week in October. I think we've got a couple, 2 or 3 spaces left. I would love to see it filled. So if you do want to come to Bali for our week of astrology with me and Maurice Fernandez and Lisa Jones, I'm going to be doing a whole day on the asteroids and how to read them in charts. I'm also going to be doing the South Node and planets conjunct to the South Node in synastry as well. So, and Maurice, well, you know Maurice. Maurice is fabulous. He'll be doing his thing, and Lisa will be doing some really great stuff as well. So the whole idea is to spend a beautiful, beautiful week in Bali in a beautiful retreat, in a beautiful resort, and have fabulous astrology at the same time. So there is Lisa's info. It's info@aquariusrising.net.au, and there is her phone number there if you want to jot that down. And as I said, I think there's a couple of spaces left. So please, please join us if you can. Okay. So let's get stuck into tonight. This is a juicy topic. We're going to be looking at the dwarf planet Eris and what she means to us in our charts, and how to understand her when we're going to be looking at her in aspect as well. Now, Eris is new to us. She was discovered in 2005. So she's new in the sky as far as we're concerned. And she's slowly but surely creeping into astrology. Now, we don't really have a firm grip on her yet. People are still feeling her out, so to speak. I kind of feel that I know her already, mainly because she makes a really strong impact in my own chart. She conjuncts my sun, she conjuncts my Mercury, and she conjuncts my South Node. So there was a part of me and my life, and I would say my personality to a certain degree, that I've never really been able to put my finger on until Eris came into the picture. And for me, there's something about the Eris energy that I go, oh, okay, that must be it. That's where this comes from. Okay. So what I'm going to be doing tonight is I'm going to be taking you through an understanding of Eris, and not just my personal understanding of her, but a more broader kind of brushstroke understanding of what she could be about for all of us. Okay. Now, she's got a bit of a diabolical personality. She, as a god, as a goddess, She's the goddess of strife and discord. So immediately go, okay, we're heading into territory here when we hear a title like that, okay? So let's get to know her a little bit more. She was discovered on the 5th of January 2005 by Mike Brown and David Rabinowitz. Images were taken of her on October 21st, 2003, and the object they identified, they nicknamed Xena, okay? The public announcement was on July 29, 2005, and her naming as Eris was made on September 13, 2006. And you've got to remember, these names that are given to planets are given by astronomers, not astrologers, which is super, super interesting. Now, she was discovered at 19 degrees of Eris at aphelion, which is the farthest away she can be, okay? Her discovery created the name of the dwarf planet and led to the demotion of Pluto, which I love this, because Eris, after Eris was discovered, she pulled Pluto down. And don't you love this? Because she raised Ceres up. Ceres, the asteroid, became a dwarf planet, and she pulled Pluto down. I love that because it kind of gives you an inkling of what she's actually about. She comes into the picture and she drags somebody else down in the mix. And Pluto. You wanted to say something?
Yeah. Well, Pluto kidnapped Ceres' daughter. So
yeah, Persephone. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there's a kind of a bit of like a revenge attack going on here, don't you think? Yeah. Now, Eris is a dwarf planet in the Kuiper belt, along with Pluto, Haumea, and Makemake. She's much, much further out. She takes 558 years to orbit the Sun, and just over twice the time that Pluto does. Eris has an extremely elliptic orbit. When she's farthest from the Sun, when she's at aphelion, she's about 100 times the Earth-Sun distance, and at her closest, at perihelion, she's roughly 37 times the Earth-Sun distance. She is also exceptionally tilted against the plane of the ecliptic, going as high and as low as 44 degrees above the ecliptic. So there she is. That red orbit is Eris. She's pretty wild. She's right out there, way out there. And look at her cycle. She's pretty untamed. She's way out, way above, way below. And she has an elliptic orbit, meaning that she spends more time in some signs than the others, okay? She kind of swoops. It's a kind of a swooping orbit. She kind of comes down like that. Eris' diameter is just slightly less than Pluto, but it's bigger in mass by 27%. She's around 1/5 the radius of the Earth, making her a little smaller than our moon. She's exceptionally bright and highly reflective. Scientists think it could be nitrogen ice, rich ice combined with a layer of frozen methane that causes this, her brightness. And Eris has one moon, Dysnomia, who in mythology was her daughter, and she was also the spirit of lawlessness. So it's a mother and daughter team, you know, of naughty women, so to speak.
Mark, can I just come in because people at home can't see the slides. So I just.
Oh, sorry.
The people at home can't see the slides. So I'm just going to.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's my fault.
While Lawrence is doing that, do many of you know about Eris? Have any of you done your own?
Not yet.
Okay. So Eris is currently at 25 Aries, and she has been in Aries since 1925, okay? And she's going to be there until 2047. So as you can see, she's spending a long, long time in Aries. This is the longest time she spends in a sign. This is her longest transit. She'll then spend 100 years in Taurus, but at the other side of her cycle, she only spends between 16 and 24 years in Virgo, Libra, and Scorpio, okay? Now, degrees for Eris in Aries, we all have Eris in Aries in this room, okay? And so I've given you decades here, and right next to the decades, can you all see? Can you all see? I've got the 1940s was between 3 and 6 of Aries. The 1950s was between 6 and 9 of Aries. So can everyone see their decade and where your Eris would be within probably 2 to 3 degrees? Of course, if you pull it up in your software or whatever, it'll give you your exact degree. So at the moment in the 2020s, she's between 23 and 25 degrees of Aries. So she's moving roughly a degree every 5 years at the moment, between 4 and 5 years. So you can see how slowly she's moving currently, okay? Oops, I'm having a bit of a thing with changing the slide now. Okay.
Okay, sorry. Still an issue is not seeing the slides.
Okay, so back on track. So here she is, she's depicted with a dagger. She sometimes has a hissing snake and she's sometimes holding a torch. In other images, she has black wings. Her Roman equivalent is Discordia, the goddess of chaos and strife. She is the sister of Mars and the daughter of Nyx, who is the goddess of the night, okay? So she's from a family of gods and goddesses who kind of play on the edgy side of things. So a lot of you may be aware of the myth of Eris, and the myth of Eris is really, really interesting because it really encapsulates her energy. And I really believe that what happens to Eris in the myth really is the underpinnings, the foundation, the underscore of everything we need to know about her, okay? So the myth goes down the lines of Zeus having a great big party. He was having a great big wedding feast and everybody was there. It was the who's who of all the gods and goddesses. It was the biggest thing that was going on in town. And if you weren't invited, you know, it was a big deal. So everybody was there. Everyone of importance was there. Eris rocks up thinking, okay, I'm going to go in and I'm going to be one of the guests. And she gets stopped at the door. She gets stopped at the door and told, sorry, Eris, you can't come in. And she's like, excuse me? No, you can't come in. Why? Well, basically, nobody really likes you very much. Basically, they're thinking you're going to spoil the party. You're going to come in and, you know, the whole vibe is the whole vibe is going to kind of drop as soon as you come in. So sorry, Eris, but you're going to have to say goodbye here. Okay. So she goes, okay, rightio. She kind of backs off and she goes, this is not going to end here. Okay. So she comes up with this little plan, which I think is really, really cool. She finds an apple, she's got a golden apple that she's conjured up. She puts Callisti on it. Callisti is for the most beautiful at the party or the prettiest one, okay? So she thinks this is going to be great. I'm going to roll this into the party and you watch the cats amongst the pigeons here. So she rolls it in and then this apple, this golden apple rolls in and says, for the prettiest one. Every girl in the party goes, it's mine. Rush over to it, grab it. It ends up being struggled, a major cat fight between three of them, between Hera, between Aphrodite, and Athena. They end up as the final three that are fighting over this apple. Anyway, none of them want to give up. Everyone thinks they're the fairest one, the most beautiful one. So they turn to Zeus and say, you pick who is the most beautiful one. And Zeus is like, no way, I'm not getting into this. So he passes the judging down to Paris, a young Trojan, Paris. And he said, you do it, okay? So Paris was left with this job between these three women who are fighting over being the prettiest as picking the winner. Apparently they take their clothes off and everything and do a whole beauty contest kind of thing for Paris. Anyway, they start bribing him. And Hera says you can have political power, and Athena says you can have resources. I'll give you the resources to come up with battle resources, so you win all your wars. And Aphrodite goes, okay, you can have me, and you can also have a gift with purchase. You can have Helen. You can have the most beautiful girl outside of this party, Helen, Queen of Sparta. You can have her as well. And so Paris goes, okay, I've picked my winner. The winner is Aphrodite, and I get Helen as well, who is actually more beautiful than Aphrodite, believe it or not. So he goes, there's a big kidnapping of Helen from her husband, the king of Sparta, from her husband. He kidnaps her, races off with her, they abscond, and then, of course, her husband, Helen's husband, loses the plot because his wife's just been kidnapped and taken away by this young Paris, and a war starts. A huge war, which ends up being the Trojan War. So the whole idea of Eris rolling a golden apple into a party ends up being the Trojan War, okay? So it's not just a cat fight between three women, it ends up being a huge, a catastrophic war between two major battlefields, in battlefields. So you can see that Eris is not just a person who just kind of hangs out in the background in a bitchy kind of way and just kind of throws little bits and pieces at people. I mean, can play it out that way in some cases. But Eris means much more than that. Eris goes down the road of the amount of hurt that you have to deal with when you are rejected. And I think a lot of people know this one. I think people from minority groups particularly know this one. And basically around how we deal with that, basically around how we respond to rejection. That's what Eris is truly about. Eris is not just about the rejection. The rejection is hard enough. But how do we respond to that? And people are going to be responding in all different ways. And the way we respond to rejection is going to be a big part of how we play Eris out in our lives and in our charts. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about that kind of stuff as the basic foundation around what Eris and her energy and what we have to learn from her is. So Eris deals deeply within the shadows of who we are. I feel because she carries such a confronting energy, we could be in denial about her, not wanting to feel that any of her negativity is actually in us at all. To be aware of her, we must not take on any of her dysfunction as another reason to feel bad about ourselves, but to realize she is the conduit of yet another level of pain that we must experience for our soul's purpose. Like Pluto, she is transformative, healing, and empowering, but first we must face the deepest parts of our vulnerability, okay? So she is, again, like I feel the Kuiper Belt planets, Pluto is a Kuiper Belt planet. I think the Kuiper Belt planets really go much deeper and much further than the planets in the solar system. I really feel that they touch on the shadow parts of our personalities, and the parts of our personalities that that we really don't want to look at truthfully. Because when we do, it kind of brings up parts of our personalities, as I said, that we aren't proud of. Yet at the same time, we really do have to address them. We truly do. And Eris is definitely that. Has anyone heard of Schadenfreude?
Yeah.
Schadenfreude is German, of course, and it's the experience of pleasure, joy, or self-satisfaction that comes from learning or witnessing the troubles, failure, of humiliation of another person. People that get actual pleasure out of watching another person suffer. People that enjoy another person in pain. And I want to say the extreme end of Eris is that. Like Eris at the party would have been out the front going, when she saw the chaos that was happening at the party, when she saw them all fighting and all pulling at each other, and then when she realized a whole war started because of her, she would have actually gone, yes, 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 yes. Because not only is it a way for her to feel, I got them back, it's almost like they deserved it. They deserved it. You know, what they did to me, they deserve. So there is a sense of watching somebody else in pain that gives another person pleasure. And I want to say there's a part of Eris, and I'm not saying we all do this. I'm not saying we're all wanting somebody else to go through pain if they hurt us. There's a lot of us that don't. You know, everybody in this room, I imagine, wouldn't be like that, including myself. But I can't help but to think a few of us might smile when we see somebody who's done something dirty to us kind of be in a position where they've got egg on their face. It's a little bit like, yeah, okay, you know. Now, Freudenfreude is the opposite. It's the joy and the pleasure of another's success and celebrating them doing well, okay? Now, this is what I want to say is high Eris. The highest version of Eris is this: to be actually happy for somebody else doing well, but not just happy for somebody else doing well, because we're always happy when our friends do well. You know, if our friends come up and say, I got this, we're like, yay, let's have a party of it. We're happy when that happens. But are we happy when the person who left us for another person is actually happy in their new marriage and they win the lottery? You know? Are we going to be the first people that actually go, yay, good on you, you know? No, we're not. We're not. I want to say that there has to be something in us that doesn't necessarily go the whole hog, but there's something in us that has to, in some way, have a pure understanding or a pure sense of me not feeling angry or not feeling antagonistic when something good happens to somebody I don't like. There has to be something in us that goes, okay, good on them. Good on them. Even though they did some pretty horrible things to me, whatever, good on them. I wish them the best. Hard thing to do. Hard thing to do. But I truly believe that this is high Eris. This is the highest version of Eris you can get. To be happy, or not even happy, but to be okay with somebody else doing well who you don't particularly, I'm going to go down the road and say like, or even deserve it. Oh, we're back again. Sorry.
the next one.
So when a planet is discovered, we take note what's happening in the world at the time. This energy seems to depict an awakening of sorts to a new vibration that is ready to be integrated into human consciousness. As astrologers, it gives us an understanding of what we are being made aware of and preparing us to add yet another layer of learning along our evolutionary journey. So Eris was discovered in 2005. So the first few years of 2005 were full on, okay? So in 2001, we had 9/11. In 2002, we had the bombings in Bali. In 2003, we had the invasion of Iraq. And in 2005, we had another set of bombings in London on the Tube. This all happened in a handful of years, all bunched up in the first 3 or 4 years of the millennium, okay? And Eris gets discovered during all this time. So you've got to come into a place of actually looking at what this means as a planet gets discovered. And wherever you lie in the political spectrum, that doesn't really matter. But all these were retaliation attacks. They were retaliation attacks. Who cares what side you're on and all that kind of stuff. And you know, they deserved it and they didn't and all that kind of stuff. All these were retaliation attacks, which is an Eris thing. So here we go. We're back there again. So it's the pain of rejection that is projected outwardly. When we get rejected, when we get pushed aside, when we get stamped on, when we don't get noticed, we're gonna lash out. We're gonna lash out. And that's Eris. How do we deal with it? And you're watching it all the time. You're watching it on the news all the time. You're constantly seeing people lashing out who are feeling, you know, trodden on, or who are feeling that they're being disrespected, or they are just kind of not even taken any notice of. So here is the way Eris can play out for us. We can attack back. We can seek revenge. We can retaliate. We want to see them suffer. We can go in and stir the pot. We can be surreptitiously hurtful. You know, we can be hurtful in a very, very subtle, underhanded, sneaky way. Projection, we can exclude others, pull people down, put bitch behind their back. We adopt justified, mean-spirited behavior and justify it by saying, as I said, they deserve it. And trolls and bullying, social media trolls and bullying is major dark Eris stuff. So projecting our hurt onto someone else at an attempt of alleviating our own pain. We tend to think, you know, I'm not going to hurt as much if I can actually bring you down, okay? So dark Eris, really, really dark Eris is that. It's that attempt at hurting somebody else and feeling that I'm going to feel better because of it. And of course we don't. Sorry, everybody. So it's just a matter of doing that. Okay. So another major Eris is competition. Competition is huge Eris stuff. So competition is a major Eris theme. Yet she was more concerned with seeing others lose and as painfully as possible. This can manifest in our lives as winning at any cost, sneaky, insidious game playing, hating to see others succeed, only seeing the worst in people, and insatiable greed and my needs over yours. That's the dark version. Now, the high Eris is spiritually challenging for most of us. This is where you can celebrate the success of others, even your rivals, and can be of help and support to them. To use competition in a healthy way to propel you and spur you onto your excellence and to your greater heights, and to see competitors as motivators and not as enemies, to include a leg up and to triumph in your own right for your own reasons with heart and integrity, to fight for a cause that brings out the best in people and help them rise to become more powerful and more liberated. So if you are a competitive type, if you are a sporty type, if competition has been a big part of your lives, then you have to be in that place in some way. I think it's a really good way to exercise your Eris. I really do. To be in competition and to find ways of, if you lose in a competition, it's disappointing. It is, it's disappointing. We wanted to win. But at the same time, if somebody else who opposed you played a really good game, good on you. Good on you. You did really well. And there has to be a part of you that celebrates that, because we're constantly looking at us feeling good. In the end, it's always going to be about how do we feel? How do we feel about ourselves? How do we feel about life? And that's high Eris stuff. So when we congratulate somebody, even our opponent, it makes us feel good. If we're going to get angry and think, I'm going to get you back and you shouldn't have won, it makes us feel bad. It makes us feel all eaten up inside. So again, when we're looking at Eris, what works and what doesn't? We've got to understand that the darker side of Eris, the real retaliating, the real I want to see you kind of be hurt side of Eris is only chewing us up. We get chewed up in the mix. Actually, we end up going down much further than the people we try to drag down around us. So here are some Eris keywords. So dark Eris, Eris that we don't necessarily want to be involved in. She is strife, war, bloodshed, cruelty, rage, killer instinct, hate, revenge, dog eat dog, revels in the pain of others, Machiavellian behavior, rejection of others, treacherous competition, and to win at any cost, and to see others suffer. High Eris, the highest version of Eris, which I hope we head towards, is empowerment, strength, bravery, inspired intelligence. She's the trailblazer, motivated through spiritual competition, spurred on by positively by opponents, by opposition. I've got my face over the top of this, guys. I can't read it, I'm sorry. Or rejection, a defender of people, fearless change agent, celebrating the success of others, promoter of power and the value of others as well, okay? So you can see the extreme opposites, can't you? Those are like, you couldn't get any further, on the scale than those two. But you can see how dark it is. You can see how dark Eris can be. And you can see the incredible positive power she has when you play her well. So here are just a few quotes that I found. Nisha has love your enemies because they bring out the best in you. I love that. Love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who, I can't read that because my face is over the top of it, but I'll leave that there.
Looks like hate. Those who hate you, maybe.
Pardon?
Oh, the word you couldn't see. I just thought it was.
No, it was a biblical one. I won't go back to that because yeah, it's gone off. Okay, and there is no revenge as well as good as forgiveness. Yeah, that was. I'll go back to that one. There's no revenge so complete as forgiveness. Josh Billings. I thought that was really cool as well, because when you forgive. Forgiving's a letting go. It's truly a letting go. It's a clearing out. It's I can't let it affect me anymore. I'm moving forward with that part of me that's pure. That's part of me. It's clear. And really, if you want to get back at somebody, and it's not about that in the end anyway, there has to be something in you that actually finds a way of being able to, in your own way, to be able to come to a place of peace. In the end, it's going to be about inner peace. So let's look at some charts, okay? Now, again, I'm going to try my best to put judgment aside because this isn't about judging people. It's hard not to. It's hard not to. I know it is. But we're going to give it a go. Okay. I don't know how many of you know Tonya Harding. She was a famous figure skater. She was right up there. She was a champion. really, really fabulous. But she had a rival called Nancy Kerrigan. And her and Nancy Kerrigan were the top two, you know, at all the big tournaments. And you probably saw the movie I, Tonya, with the wonderful Alison Janney playing her mother, Tonya's mother. And Tonya had this thing with the mother as well that she had to deal with too. So at the beginning of 1994, Tonya's husband, plus I think was a friend, and Tonya reckons she knew absolutely nothing about it, but you know, that's up for debate. Kneecapped Nancy Kerrigan as she was getting off the ice, and they were going for some big national championship, both of them, you know, within a week or something after this happened. So he got a big steel bar or something like that and whacked her across the knees as she was coming off. So this is an Eris thing to do, by the way, don't you think? I mean, it's super dark Eris. It really is. It's almost like, you're not going to win, girlfriend. I'm going to make sure, you know, that you get yours. And as I said, Tonya reckons she didn't know anything about it. Whether she planned it or whether she was in on it, we don't know. But it makes me feel that she knew something was going on, whether it was her husband that planned it or whatever. But when you look at her chart, she's got Eris and Chiron in the 10th house conjunct. Eris and Chiron are back together again now. They're in the sky together now. So this was the last time they were together. It was in 1970, okay? And there they are in direct opposition to Uranus and Mars, okay? So they are in the 10th house. This is Tonya's chart. So they've got her birth time at 8:22 p.m. And so the 10th house is who you are publicly. It's the top of your chart. You're at the top of the game in the 10th house. It's your career house. The 4th house is family, and usually father comes into this, but it looks like mum too, to a certain degree, would be tucked in here somewhere along the line. But here we have Eris and Chiron. And so there is a wounding going on around here for Tonya, you know, in the 10th house. I've got to win. I've got to come first. It's Eris in Aries and Chiron in Aries. I've got to come first. And there is a wounding around, what if I don't? What if I don't win? You know, that feeling of you know, I've got to come first, but then I've got a Mars in opposition. I've got Uranus, Mars in opposition, which if I was doing a reading for her, I would say you have to break away from family, which is Uranus, and you have to become your own person, which is Mars. So if I was doing a reading for her, I would actually go down that road with the 4th house. But in her case, she is kind of feeling trapped in a way. There's Uranus down there, you know, feeling trapped. Her freedom is trapped. And there is a feeling of Mars having a Marsy kind of family person that's kind of egging her on. You've got to win, you've got to win, you've got to come first, you've got to come first. And maybe there's an intimidating kind of factor coming at her as well, okay? So when you've got this feeling of, I can't be my own person, I can't do my own thing. And when you've got this, you've got to win, you've got to win. And if you don't win, I'm going to get really angry. You've got this thing going on. There's this feeling at the top of the chart of, I have to. And if I don't win, you know, if I don't win easily and I want to say, legally, you know, if I don't win fairly, then Eris is saying, well, you can win some other ways. There's other ways you can win. And so, is this got something to do with what happened on that particular day? She did have transiting Mars squaring on the day it happened. Transiting Mars and transiting Sun were squaring on the day it happened. So again, we've got Mars egging her on, or the action of Mars, or the anger of Mars happening at the day she, as I said, at the day she as I said, she didn't have anything to do with it. She didn't do it herself. But do you think that there could be something going on here as far as Eris was concerned that plays out in this storyline? To me, it looks like it. To me, it looks like an Eris kind of attack. To me, it looks like somebody who had to win, and however I could do it. And does anybody else feel that there is something here in, as far as Eris is concerned, Eris and Chiron is concerned, that would have motivated this in some kind of way?
Yeah, the Eris and Uranus opposition is the titlist. It shows something very disruptive. The orb is very tight.
Say that again, sorry?
Eris Uranus opposition orb is very tight.
It's very
And
tight.
soon Eris will also be approaching Chiron because of her retrograde.
Yes, yeah. Very, very tight orbs. And Chiron is on the approach. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. It just to me, it just makes me feel that if you're understanding Eris a little bit more and you're understanding what she's about, you kind of go a little bit down the road of this is a way of being able to play her out. And again, is it good? Is it not so good? Well, it's not good, but at the same time, she's a girl learning to do her errors.
Did she go from a violent, like, did she see violence or in her childhood,
Yeah.
in the family?
Yeah,
All right, yeah, because that's another thing too. If she sees that as an example,
yeah,
then yeah.
yeah. Sorry?
Yeah, it's also interesting because Eris is an Aries which is intercepted. So you don't actually see it, so it's
Exactly.
expressing it.
Exactly.
And on the flip side, Venus and Mars are ruling houses that are invisible and they're recepting one another.
Exactly.
And everything is going to Scorpio and then back to Venus. So it's not particularly.
It's so strong, isn't it?
Yeah.
It keeps on, you know, they bounce off each other so profoundly. And again, you know, she's a Scorpio, Jupiter in Scorpio, Venus in Scorpio, fifth house. The fifth house needs attention. The fifth house is here I am, I'm on, you know, I'm the star, I need attention. Scorpio energy, you know, I love Scorpio energy, but it's intense. It takes things to the extreme. So, here is a, I couldn't help it.
I know who she is.
They can't see it at home again, so.
I couldn't help it.
Sorry.
I was just trying to find Eris things. Does anybody know who Lorena Bobbitt is?
And John.
To me, it's classic Eris because Lorena, I'm hoping, you know, everyone is okay with hearing this. But in a fit of anger or hurt, or whatever you want to put around that, Lorena severed her husband's penis, chopped it off. Yeah. I know you want to laugh, and then on another level you go, oh my God, oh my God, because here, what's happened here is that she said she did it because he was abusing her. It was like a DV kind of thing. And he was bashing her and all that kind of stuff. And she did it for that reason. He said that was bull. He said she did it because I couldn't stop playing around. You know, I was being unfaithful and I couldn't stop it. And he was sleeping around with lots and lots of different girls. And to stop him from sleeping around, she took off the main thing that was I mean, if you're going to stop somebody from sleeping around, you're going to have to, yeah, exactly. I'm not saying she was lying. He might have been rough with her and all that kind of stuff too. But from what I'm getting from it, his story seems a little tiny bit more plausible, only because the Eris is I'm gonna make sure I get you back, because really in the end, being cheated on has everything to do with being rejected. Has everything to do with, I'm shutting you out. You're not coming into my life anymore. I've got all these other people that are more important than you, or I find more that are more sexy than you. And so this is what she does. And so she's 2 weeks earlier, 2 weeks earlier than Tonya. So she's got a very similar chart. She's actually got more Scorpio than Tonya does. She's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 planets, 6 planets in Scorpio, all going across the top of the chart. But there is Eris in the second with Chiron, and there's the Mars Uranus. Mars Uranus is radical, and if you're going to do something radical, Mars Uranus will probably be in the picture. When Mars and Uranus are transiting and they're making a hard aspect to each other, you'll hear a lot of astrologers say, be careful when you're driving, don't get behind the wheel angry, or, it's got that kind of feeling of, a really kind of way out, unpredictable kind of accident or something like that. I'm not an astrologer that loves to go down those roads. I don't like saying those kind of things, but at the same time, you can't dismiss them either. So again, here we have somebody that's done something, not just kind of like hurt him or even just, tried to bash him, but to do something that crazy, to do something that wild. It's very Mars Uranus as well. It's kind of like vicious on one level and really out there on another, which is so Mars Uranus. Now it's similar to Tonya's, except Tonya's was 10th and 10th and 4th. Now we don't know Lorena's birth time, though it was kind of talked about as being 1 in the afternoon. I went looking for it. I found somebody who said that she mentioned something, or there was something written about her. It was 1 in the afternoon. So I went with that. And so it makes a little bit of sense if it's 1 in the afternoon as well, because the second house, is our security house. Our survival is in the second house and the 8th house. The second house is our worth and our value, ourselves. It's our money, but it's very much about how we feel about ourselves and how we value ourselves. And the 8th house is how we value ourselves with other people. The toing and froing of the worth and value and power and control with others. And so this is classic in this sense, because she is dealing with her self-worth and him dealing with what he has to do and how she's bouncing off him and what he's doing with other people and how she needs to be able to come to her own way of being able to find value and worth with other people. And so here we go with somebody who is doing her Eris, not in a good way, of course, not in a way that you're going to pat her on the back, but she is in pain. Here is a woman in pain that doesn't know how else to do it. And she's got an Eris with Chiron that's actually saying, I'm worth nothing. That second house, I don't have it. I don't have the resources. I'm not equipped enough. And it's very much her self-worth and self-esteem is at stake here. And she's dealing with being at the mercy of somebody else, which is the 8th house. The mercy at somebody else and what somebody else is doing and how she feels, with how somebody else is treating her, basically. And so it's an Eris thing. It's an Eris thing to be able to, how do I project this anger? How do I project this hurt? How do I project him making me feel like shit? How do I project that? I know what I'll do. I'll do something really, really diabolical. I'll attack him in the most, I want to say, It's like headline seeking way, It really, really did cause a big ruckus when people found out about what actually happened. She threw it in the bushes or something, didn't she? Yeah. Yeah, I thought she drove off and threw it in a bush or something. They did sew it back on again. Yeah.
How'd that work out? He ended up working in pornography afterwards.
Yes, I know. Yes, he became.
Was still working.
Well, imagine you famous.
Someone told, I didn't see it.
It's,
If you put the sun on the ascendant, right, the part of fortune will be around 16 degrees of Eris, which is semi-sextile to Eris, and then it'll put Eris in the 5th house, which is lovers.
well, if you put the sun on the ascendant, you
Yeah.
mean? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So you go down that road too. Yeah. Keeps underscoring itself, doesn't it? But both of those, born within 2 weeks of each other, did like attack, like major attack. So this is an Eris, a really dark Eris thing. But as I said, I remember as a teenager, because I've got Eris conjunct my sun and my Mercury at my South Node, as a teenager, I was fascinated with crime, fascinated with it, not in being part of it, but fascinated in reading books about it, anything that I could get my hands on about really, really full-on stuff. When I was a teenager, I couldn't get enough of it. And I just wanted to know the details. I wanted to go into all the details, what happened, how it happened. I'm not like that anymore, thank goodness. But when I was a kid, I was like, couldn't get enough. And I'm thinking, where is this coming from? Because I can't see it in my chart anywhere else. And then when I discovered, Eris, when it was discovered and started bringing it in, I thought, there we go. Okay.
That should be
Oh,
Eris
fantastic.
Patterson.
Yeah, that's right.
Mark?
Are people at home seeing that? I'm hoping they are, yeah. So this is, well, I don't know Erin Patterson's birth time, but I thought I'd better look at her chart because of what she's been convicted of. And she's born a little bit later than the two other ladies, so Chiron is making a bit of distance. But look where her, so we don't know the houses, so don't get involved in the houses. But again, we're looking at Mars again, and we're looking at Pluto, and we're looking at the sun. It is wide with the other two, but it's directly opposite Mars, and it's making a wide square to Saturn as well. So it's Mars-Saturn. So again, Erin is a Libra, but she's not a typical Libra because she's got Pluto right next door to the degree. So you wouldn't call her one of those easygoing, compliant Librans. And she's got Mars there as well. So again, maybe there's a whole lot of stuff around Erin of things not being fair. Libra, it's not fair. How come they're like that and I'm not? It's not fair. And this is getting back again. I have to get back at something. So again, was she locked out? Was she a person who they didn't want in their lives? Was she a person who wasn't embraced? And again, I'm not condoning what she did. I'm just looking at her chart, looking at as an astrologer, and I'm thinking there is something about her, the pain in her, the feeling of not being accepted, the feeling of not being included, that is coming out in an I'll get you back kind of way. I want to watch you suffer. And so I don't know what's going on with that family. I don't know what happened between her and the people she poisoned. I have no idea what was the backstory around all that kind of stuff, but there is a feeling of you, I'm going to get you back. It's a definitely I'm going to get you back story. Whether it was I'm going to get you back personally or I'm going to get my husband back, and I'm going to attack his family, you know, to get my husband back.
Vengeance is a dish best served with mushrooms.
Yeah. So it's diabolical, isn't it? Because we've got Mars Pluto, and we've got, you know, Mars Pluto. We're going places with Mars Pluto, because that's deeply, deeply transformative, you know, on the level of her personal power. So she could have actually become very powerful in her own right by, in her own way, overcoming anything on the level of feeling, you know, blocked out, or feeling not accepted, or feeling disliked. She could have actually turned that around in some kind of way and found a way of using the power that she could actually have embraced herself by growing apart, you know, growing above that, you know, being able to go through her own transformation around that kind of thing. But obviously she didn't. She didn't. There was a feeling of, I'm going to pull you down. I'm going to make it worse for you. I'm going to watch you suffer, you know, that kind of thing, which is really, really sad, because look where she's ended up. The Saturn is interesting too, because the Saturn is in Cancer. So we're going down a Saturn that's very connected to people, very connected to families, very connected to the home. And so, again, we're talking about that kind of environment. Saturn has got this responsibility thing going on, that feeling of her taking responsibility for herself in this particular area. But when Saturn is not playing on the level of self-responsibility, it's going to be able to give it to somebody else. In other words, they've got the power. They've got control. They're the ones who've got me. They're the ones who are making me feel this way. They're Saturnizing me. They're restricting me. They're making me feel bad. They're making me feel small or controlled. She's got to turn it around. She's got to actually be in control, but she doesn't want to be in control in the way that she took it. She thought, I'll take control. I'll take control of the situation, and I'll do what I did. Rather than actually taking the situation into her own hands and actually say, I'm in control of my life. I'm in control of how to use this. And, you know, I might like these people and I don't like my husband, but, you know, they're different to me. You know, they have their lives. I've got mine. I've got to move on. You know, I've got to find the strength. I've got to find the power in myself, in my life. And I've got to, whatever they've done to me or whatever it is, whatever the story is, I can't let that get the better of me. But she did. She did.
This chart is also interesting, because every time I see a chart and the 10th house is kind of in the center, I'm like, the person's going in kind of a different direction, right? But if you look at the midpoint between Chiron and Eris, that's pretty much where you would expect that MC to be, right?
Yeah.
And then it's the midpoint between Sun and Pluto and Uranus is, again, that's about 15 or 16 degrees, and that's pretty much where ascendant and a descent is.
It makes it even more interesting, doesn't it, when you actually add those two? Yeah. Yeah. Because it makes it even a more of a kind of like a matrix. Yeah. But so interesting, isn't it?
I think there's also the Sun-Pluto conjunction, so there will be all these power struggle issues and all that. And also there's a Sun-Moon Queen Cup, so again, issue with polarities.
Yeah. Yeah. It plays out so strongly. When I pulled this up, because I just pulled this up just for, you know, it was today or yesterday. I was really, really like taken aback when I saw this. And as I said, we don't have a birth time for her. So I would love to see the houses that they actually fall in. So interesting, isn't it? Do people know this guy, Andrew Cunanan?
Yes.
Andrew Cunanan murdered Gianni Versace, and he murdered a lot of other people as well.
And there's a TV series about him. There was a TV series a few years ago about him killing Versace as well. I can't think of what it's called. It's one of those American murder stories.
Oh, yeah, on telly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Darren Criss played it.
Yes.
Yeah, he
yes,
played, yeah.
yes.
He did a great job, didn't
Yeah.
he? Gianni Versace, the fashion designer, the well-known fashion designer, was gunned down at the front of his Miami apartment by Andrew Cunanan. Andrew Cunanan had already murdered probably about 3 or 4 guys. He was on the run when he murdered Gianni. He was a young boy. He was well, he wasn't a boy. He was in his 20s. He was a chronic compulsive liar. He lived in this fantasy world. He wanted to be rich and famous, hung out with a lot of rich and famous people, pretended he was like them, would be lying through his teeth all the time, and became a prostitute, a young prostitute for rich old men. And that's the way he kind of lived his life. And he lived this life in this kind of bad dream world where he made up stories and pretty much just swindled people along the way. He killed a lot of the guys that he was involved with. And then I don't think he was actually involved with Gianni. I think they might have rubbed shoulders somewhere along the line, but he probably would have murdered him in a way through basic kind of jealousy. It was kind of like a random attack in a way, but he would have been jealous of him and his lifestyle and who he was and being famous and had lots of money, all that kind of stuff, which Andrew wanted to be. And so he was on the run for quite a long time. They actually narrowed him down. They found him, and he shot himself just as he was being caught, killed himself. So this is a 1969. He was born in 1969. 1997 was the time that he murdered Gianni Versace. So he would have been, Saturn returning around that time? Would have been about 28. It would have been 28. And so there's his Eris with Chiron. A little bit wider than the other 2 ladies we saw earlier. But again, in Eris, of course, and in the 12th. But look at the planet, it's opposite. The planet it's opposite, the strongest is Jupiter. Isn't it interesting how he was a person who wanted to be big, wanted to be rich, wanted to be famous, wanted everyone to love him, live a big lifestyle. And he lived in this Jupiterian kind of dream world, You got Neptune. People talk about Neptune being in a dream world, and it definitely is. But Jupiter does that too. Jupiter conjures up, Jupiter believes in things. Jupiter believes in possibilities and potentials in a really positive way. And we get on the bus with Jupiter and we really create a great life with Jupiter. We really can. But when Jupiter goes off the rails, and it does do that a lot, we just end up in these crazy, wild experiences where we throw ourselves boots and all into something, and it just becomes like a wild kind of, like a drug party, or, those kind of things where everybody is just kind of going over the top and becoming gratuitous and hedonistic, and there's too much of everything and everything's being wasted and nothing's going anywhere. That can also be Jupiter. That can be a really negative kind of Jupiter. And I feel that Jupiter is the one that comes into his life. I feel that feeling of wanting the Jupiter experience, wanting to be amongst that. And he was always amongst people who were working in Jupiter jobs. He worked in a Jupiter job, he was the escort for richer old men, That's a very 6th house thing, to be in service, Jupiter service, getting paid a lot of money to be in service to richer older men who lived a beautiful lifestyle, and he would suck on that, you know what I mean? That would be his way of being able to live in that place, but he was basically a parasite. He wasn't doing it himself, he was basically a parasite. So you get this feeling of somebody being in the 12th house. Here is somebody who just is not there. You know, somebody who's really disconnected from life, really disconnected from himself, really having no grounding, a feeling of being isolated by yourself, not connecting to anything and anyone, yet at the same time coming out into the world and wanting to actually live this dream life, but having no sense of self, having no sense of who he truly was. And so there's a sadness about this in a way, because there's a feeling possibly what he was trying to do was trying to connect with something greater than himself, which could have been quite beautiful if he really found it, if he really found a connection to source or connection to something that he actually felt a little tiny bit more, making his soul smile a little bit. But he kind of didn't. He didn't. He kind of lost himself. And he had a really, really low self-esteem, obviously, incredibly low self-esteem. And always felt that, you know, he was underneath everybody else, always felt that he was the sixth house, you know, the worker or the servant underneath everybody else. So how do you get back? How do you get back at people? You know, all the people who had everything that he wanted, all the people that, you know, he felt a little bit like jealous of, you might want to say. He bumps them all off, one after each other. Really tragic, really, really tragic. And Gianni Versace, for no reason at all, just going to get his morning paper and coming home. Here we have a very Eris thing to do. But how else would he have done this? There would have been some beautiful, beautiful stuff he could have actually done for a lot of people, I truly believe, that could have been Eris themselves, meaning people who have been locked out of life, people who haven't been embraced, people who haven't been allowed in, so to speak. Being a 12th house person, he could have been a teacher, healer for those kind of people. He could have been a person who embraced those kind of people. But he could also have been a person who could have lived a lifestyle, who could have lived a beautiful lifestyle with all those, but he would have had to come in and he would have had to be in a positive influence. He would have had to really, really join in and be happy for everybody else and be boosting everybody else and be there for everybody else and be a positive kind of energy for everybody else. If he was doing that, if he was in that mix, he would have been very, very popular. People would have loved him. He was a good-looking guy. He had a lot going for him. But unfortunately, the way he played it out was very, very tragic. Not just for him, you know, all the poor people that, you know, he was associated with as well.
Yeah. I think the self-isolation can come also from the Saturn and Moon conjunction.
Right.
Yeah.
So the seed is already there.
When he did his murders in 1997, he had solar arc Eris on his Saturn moon. Yeah, it made its way down.
Pluto south, no, it's not easy either.
Yeah.
I found this one kind of interesting because Julian Assange didn't do anything as, you know, as full on as the ones that I've showed you. But he did suffer an Eris kind of situation. In the fifth house is the creative part of who we are. And Julian Assange was a writer and he was of course, you know, he was an exposer. But the fifth house is who we are. It's that extension of the creative side of who we are. It's about putting who we are out there. You know, it's expressing. It's that feeling of feeling important, and I've got something that matters, and I want to be seen. I want to actually put my name on something. And so, in a way, his talent, his gift, and his talent was kind of Eris in a way. It was kind of like what he was putting out there and how he was using what he was writing and how he was using his way of communicating. And a lot of people, of course, would go, well, look at what he was doing. He was doing a lot of really, heavy stuff that was exposing a lot of people, but it wasn't necessarily about that. It was like it ended up being a personal attack on him, and which is a very fifth house thing. The fifth house is Leo. It's a sun's house. It's about, we're going to lock you away and we're going to take the life out of you, basically. That's what we're going to do. We're going to de-life you in a way. We're going to take the sun out of you. We're going to take the shine out of you. And that's an Eris in the fifth house thing. And that's a feeling of, how am I going to get people back? And because Eris is opposite Uranus, everyone see that in the 11th, he was a rule breaker. He was a mover and a shaker. He was a person that wanted to crack things open. And in the 11th house, it was the society, it was the world outside, it was the groups, it was what was going on politically. So he was throwing cats amongst pigeons. He was shaking cages. He was doing that. But at the same time, there's a big, big part of his personality, a big, big part of who he was, that was completely annihilated, that was completely stripped of him. So again, it wasn't just, we're going to make sure that you don't do this anymore and shut down your business or shut down your people. It was kind of like an attack, right on him. We're going to have to do something about you. And so it is making a square to his sun, his Cancer sun, in the 8th house. And so I always think with the 8th house is always having to deal with other people, always at the mercy of other people, always at the mercy of, my worth, my value, my power, my control, with your worth, your value, your power, your control. So again, he was in that fight with other people. He was that feeling of who's got more power, who's got less power, who's more important, who's less important. All that's all 8th house stuff. My value and my worth and your value and your worth have to be the same in the 8th house. And when it's not, that's when all the 8th house stuff goes awry. And a lot of people know it's the house of other people's money. We know that. But it is the house of paying for something and getting your money's worth back. That's a big, big part of the 8th house. So here, he wants to break free. He wants to do his own thing. He shakes cages. He cracks things open. He exposes things. And he gets punished for it, basically. He gets punished big time for it. Not just, you're going to have to go to jail for a year and then we'll forget about it. This went on forever and ever and ever. This went on for so, so long. So again, how's he using his Eris? Is he going to, I don't think he can come back. I don't think there's a way of, I'll get you back, because he's been through enough already. There's no way he could do that. Has he, I haven't really kept up with him lately. Has he written anything? He's just going to keep quiet. He's just going to be low, just spending time with his family. Just go home.
He was on the march the other week on the Harbour Bridge.
That's true, yeah.
Okay. I just keep thinking his Eris needs to be able to come into a 5th house place again. It needs to come into a place of celebration. It needs to come into a place of light. It needs to come into a place of actually being able to pull himself back out of the dark and back out of that little room he was in for all those years, and find celebration and find something in him where he can actually start to feel alive again. He really, really does. I feel that his Eris would really, really appreciate that. And not hold any grudges, not hold any, those, what they did to me, and, they were, and all the heavy duty stuff that you could feel. He needs to be able to find ways of being able to turn that around. He has to, for his own sake.
And the kids, he had the young kids while he was in there.
Sorry,
He
Dan?
had the young kids while he was in there, like his children were born while he was in
Yes,
there.
true.
And
Yeah.
I saw something where he was walking along the sand at the beach somewhere. No one knows where it is, what,
Yeah.
in Australia with the children and saying this is,
So he's just
you know,
taking it.
this was a while ago now,
Yeah.
not long after, I think, but yeah, devoid of sunlight in the embassy and all of that, no vitamin D, and they're now out and walking along the beach with the children against
Right.
the sun, but yeah.
He's just trying to get back to the fifth house. Kids are the fifth house, as we know.
Yeah,
It's a house of children. So getting back to the kids.
but there's got to be more.
And he's a Cancerian too. Yeah. That would be the best way for him now. It would have to be. It'd have to be the higher side of Eris. And try his best. Try his best to not hold any grudges. Hard. But I wanted to find people who had strong Erises, but who actually played very much on the other side of it. Eckhart Tolle is a very well-known spiritual teacher. Power of Now, you know, the New Earth. Has Eris Venus conjunct, opposite Neptune. Don't you love the planets involved in what's going on for him? Because as I said, he's a spiritual teacher. And here we have Eris, diabolical Eris, with his Venus. And as I said, the high side of Eris, the real high side of Eris, which I'm trying to practice, underlying trying to practice, because she's strong in my chart, as I said, is to be able to come into a place of being able to see, even understand people you don't agree with or you don't like or do rub you up the wrong way, and not have this kind of feeling about them. You know, don't let that eat you up inside. Because sometimes I look at people and I go, oh, you are such an awful person. You are so, so awful. You know, and it's kind of like, it's not even a judgment, it's just a fact. You're a horrible person. There's nobody in the room. And I feel this feeling coming up inside of me, and I go, I don't like that feeling. I don't want to feel that. I want to actually go, okay, you know, whatever. I don't agree with you, or whatever it is, and I wish I could just leave it there. And I'm trying, because, you know, I'm feeling that Eris is, I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to see them suffer. I'm not like that. But I just don't even want to feel that yucky feeling. And I want to say that probably, I don't know Eckhart, of course, but maybe he's there. Maybe he's there. You know, it's Venus, you know, goddess of love and connection and beauty and harmony. And, you know, that feeling of being able to come into a soft, secure, comfortable place. And it's opposite Neptune, you know, which is really about release and letting go and coming into a higher version of itself. This could get lost in the ether, really, by somebody who is looking, you know, for nirvana in a person. If you're looking for nirvana in a person, this could get very lost. And this could actually be one of those, you know, if somebody got sideswiped or somebody got blindsided in a relationship, this could go horribly wrong. But to me, it doesn't look like that. So again, we don't have a birth time for Eckhart, so we don't know where these planets lie. But we do know, in a way, that him being a spiritual teacher, he went through his own stuff. At 29, he was about to suicide. He was so depressed, so depressed, and had this major awakening at Saturn return time. So I'd like to think he's a person that's actually playing out his Eris in a really positive way, which kind of makes me feel a little bit like it's more the all-encompassing side of Eris, that feeling of being able to be celebratory, you know, and happy and okay with people who he doesn't agree with, or people who he thinks are still struggling in life and, you know, people who were still learning, you know. I'd like to think that Eris is playing out that way for him, because when I think of Eris, and when most people think of Eris, they go, oh, she's just a person who just wants to cause trouble. And you go, no, she's not. She can't be that. You know, she can be played out that way by people who are in that mix, but she can't stay there. She can't. She has to turn it around. She has to be exactly the opposite to that. So I can't help but think that in Eckhart's chart, that I don't know what he was like before 29. I don't know how he might have played this out before 29. He may have played it out, especially in his love life, I imagine, in a challenging way or a difficult way. Anybody else have some ideas about how he could play it out, apart from what I've just mentioned? Knowing the kind of person he is, he's a funny guy. He makes me laugh, you know, when he does he's got a sense of humor. And here is another one. Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. You know, she was one of the pioneers of that kind of stuff. Back in the 80s, she wrote that amazing book, you know, of what you believe, what you think, you know, self-talk, love yourself. Everything that's going on up here is manifesting out there. Here is another one. She had a tough life, Louise, a really tough life. And she really didn't come to become Louise Hay until she was well in her 50s. Second Saturn return time. She passed away a few years ago, 90. But here she is again. She's got Eris at 0 degrees of Aries, when it just moved in 1925. She's born in 1926. She's got it out of sign with Uranus, but it is opposite Venus. And it's making a quincunx to her Scorpio moon. She had a tough childhood. She was sexually molested as a child. She went through a really, really horrible childhood with a lot of abuse raped as a child and horrible stuff, horrible stuff. So the moon in the 4th house in Scorpio talks a lot about the stuff that probably would have gone down on that level, you know, of being able to, you know, just her survival and the intensity of it all would have played out with her moon in some kind of way. So the quincunx is interesting because the quincunx energy is a blocking of energy. The quincunx, I've done a lot of talks on the quincunx. The quincunx doesn't, the signs in the quincunx have nothing to do with each other. They don't get each other at all. And so when you're looking at planets in a quincunx, they really are blocked. They have to get that plumber snake down to be able to unblock them. And whatever that plumber snake is, has to be an operation of sorts. And hers is the moon and Eris. So therefore, in her own way, and she actually talks about this in the books that she writes, in her own way, she would have had to do her own version of major forgiveness for the people that abused her when she was a kid. And this is not saying that who those people were good and right, because they weren't, but to release herself from this, she's going to have to do that. She's going to have to release herself by being able to let that go, being able to forgive that. And I think that's the Eris moon quincunx, to be able to go there and to be able to have an understanding of those people not being perpetrators as an adult, not carrying the pain of what she went through as a child as an adult. That's very Eris moon to me. Opposite Venus in the 3rd, she's a writer. You know, she's written all those books about love and self-love and being able to come into a place where you celebrate yourself, celebrate others. You know, she's always going to be a Venus in Libra. She's a Libra person in the 3rd house. She's all about connection. She's all about that feeling of inner peace. She's all about that feeling of coming into balance with yourself, coming into harmony with yourself and with others. And so again, I want to say that the ninth house, the ninth house, our higher ideals, our laws, our principles, our ethics, there has to be something in her that breaks the mold, that breaks the rules. Uranus is up there. So she looks at all the health things. She talks about health. She's got a whole section in her first book where she talks about a particular ailment, and she will tell you where it comes from. She'll tell you the thought pattern or the belief system of where that's coming from. If you've got a sore this, if you've got a bad this, if you've contracted this, she will actually say it's coming from this. So again, there we go. What we think and what we believe, she's taken out there, she's taken it outside. And again, this is not something, she could have actually just become a bitter woman who just lives her life feeling very angry about what happened to her when she was young. But she's turned it around. She turned it around completely. And she's done pretty much what I said at the beginning of the talk. She's pretty much done that feeling of turning something that's hard, difficult, painful into something that actually works for her and comes into a place of celebrating everything and everyone around her.
Mark,
Okay.
Mark, just go back to the chart. So that Eris, Uranus is the focus of a finger of God as well, with Neptune and the Mercury moon.
Oh, it is
So that
too.
quincunx you're talking about.
Yeah,
is
yeah,
not
yeah.
integrated with the
It is
Neptune.
true. It's a yod, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Uranus as yeah,
So she made that happen by
very much so. Very much so. Everyone see that? Bob pointed out. Yeah. So just to finish up, everybody, send pure energy. I wrote down send positive energy or good energy, and I went, no, they're not the right words. And then I thought, what's the right word? And I thought pure energy is the best word. Send pure energy to everybody who has hurt you in your life, and that will set you free. Pure energy to me, rather than good energy. Good energy and positive energy means I have to conjure up this kind of feeling, which is challenging for me to conjure up. Pure energy just means I just have to relax. I just have to relax into it. And so the energy that's going out is unfiltered. It doesn't have anything in it that's tainting it. Doesn't have any kind of bitterness or any feeling of even sadness or any of that resentment. Doesn't have any of that in it at all. It's pure. It's just that feeling of allowing an energy to go out to people that I don't particularly like, to people that have done nasty things to me in the past. And it's about you. It's about setting yourself free. And I truly believe that if you can do that with Eris, I truly believe that your Eris in your chart will actually start to move in the right directions. Okay? So thank you, everybody, for listening today.
That was amazing, Mark. Thank you. I'm just going to turn, just go back into the Zoom. Do you have time for questions?
Oh, it's question time.
Well, there are some questions that are online. And
Some in the chat.
yeah, there's a few in the chat there. And I'm not sure if people have questions. Yeah.
I forgot about questions. I was ready to pack up and go home.
So before we go to some of the questions online, are there any questions in the room for Mark? Presentation?
Is justice an Eris theme, or is that something else? Justice, is it an Eris theme?
Justice?
Yeah.
Oh, very much so.
Right.
Very much so. Because you know how Eris would see justice? When I pulled up Erin, was it Erin's chart? That's not fair, remember?
Right.
That's not fair. What you did to me is not fair. And my justice, if justice is not happening out there in the world to you, then I'll take it into my own hands. I'll make it just. And so therefore, you know, and as a lot of eye for an eye comes up with Eris, you know, and Erin's a Libra. Erin's a Libra. So she's always going to be, we have to bring this into balance. You've done something to me, so to balance it, I'm going to have to do something to you. So justice would come into it for sure.
Yeah. So Eris also in some way does she kind of mirror the truth and facts for what they are actually?
Mirroring the truth, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you say mirroring the truth, could you?
Like showing what is factually correct, like cutting through all the gaslight. Yeah.
I didn't quite get that.
It's like showing facts and reality for what they stand, beyond the gaslight and the pretense.
I'm not quite
getting
getting
down to the truth, and core of things.
Getting down to the core of the truth. You mean?
Yes.
Oh yeah, very much so. It would have to be, because Eris will go down the road of what I think is true. You know, what I think is true.
Yeah.
It becomes very subjective for Eris. You know, meaning what's actually happening and what I believe is happening could be two very different things. You know, what actually happening to a person out there, people might go, oh no, they're fine, they're just no, but I've taken it in a way where I've taken it personally. I've taken it in a way where they've shut me out or they're not doing it for me. So therefore, the truth actually becomes my truth, or my subjective truth. It's not necessarily going to be the truth. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, sort of, because I was coming back to the Julian Assange chart. Yeah. Of like exposing reality and truth.
The other side of Eris. The other side.
Oh, the other side of the high side of Eris.
Yeah.
The high side of Eris is going to be that feeling of I want to feel good. I want to feel good. And so therefore, how can I use my Eris to make me feel good? The only way I can feel good is to be able to come into a place where I have to feel happy or joyful. And if that person's part of it, then I have to, in my own way, I have to feel happy and joyful for them. You know what I mean? I have to, even if I don't like them very much, I have to be able to let them off the hook. I can't, in other words, I can't keep hating them, or I can't keep looking at them and going, oh, you're making my life worse. I can't do that. So I have to see it from a more positive perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see Yatin's point, because if you think of the myth, she actually understands how those goddesses are wired to get the maximum effect. So that is really just cutting through to see what the person actually is and what motivates them.
Exactly. Exactly. And I often think that if she went away, she wasn't allowed in. If she went away and wrote a note or something and said, I hope you have a really good time regardless. I'm going home, enjoy yourself, have a good time. Chances are she would have got invited to the next party. You know what I mean? There is that part of her that should have just, in her own way, found something in her that went, okay, I hope they enjoy themselves. Because it would have played out well for her in the end. You know, but anyway.
Couple of the chats.
I've had a look at them, but I think we've covered all those questions already. So anyway, let me kind of just take the moment just to kind of thank everyone for coming, to thank you, Mark,
Thank you,
to acknowledge
Lawrence.
you for everything that you do. I discovered that my own Eris, because I never look at the Eris, my own Eris is actually in Eris, right above my sentence. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, so we can talk about
we have to talk about that.
Yeah, well, actually, it's right next to my current, so it's kind of interesting. So just so everyone knows, what happens now is we go and continue the conversation in the pub. So I invite everybody to join us if you'd like a drink or 2 or 10, whatever you want. For those of you who are new to SARS, I don't know if you know the background, maybe I'll just take a moment. So SARS has actually been around since 1938, so a long, long time. You know, and The original plan was to actually give people access to higher level astrological knowledge, and that original vision remains today. So we meet every month, not always in person, sometimes in person, and usually it's the first Wednesday of every month. For special guests, we make exceptions. And sometimes it's just online. So next month, which is only in 2 weeks' time, actually, we'll be online with another great session. And then in November, we'll have another session that will really kind of wrap the year up and help us look to what exciting challenges may lie ahead in 2026. Hard to believe that we're nearly there. So, so without further ado, I just want to again thank Marc.
Thank you, Lawrence. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody online.
Yeah, and thank you, everyone online. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you again very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I should just.